Welcome back to The Critique. We're looking at a piece that challenges the official 9/11 narrative, claiming CIA blockages and a failed recruitment plot. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, this one presents a really complex set of facts. And, the main challenge here is separating what we know happened, the organizational failures, from the asserted motive.
This is so critical because the evidence for information blocking is, frankly, incredibly strong.
It is.
The piece highlights the first-hand account of former FBI agent Mark Rossini. He confirms that a CIA officer, Michael Ann Casey, blocked the report on Almadar's visa back in January 2000.
Right.
That's not a theory. That is, documented proof of secrecy coming out of Alex Station.
Absolutely correct. The material does a great job of linking these facts, like the CIA tracking the hijackers from that switchboard in Yemen to the Kuala Lumpur summit. It all proves the CIA deliberately kept the FBI in the dark. That part is solid.
But here's the problem, this strategic issue. The material makes this huge leap from established fact information was blocked to a massive inference.
That their motive was a false flag operation to recruit the hijackers?
Exactly. And that's where the central claim of a fantastical delusion, as the material puts it, it just needs stronger independent evidence to really hold up.
It does, because this motive is mostly sourced from a claim by Richard Clarke. And the material even acknowledges the official pushback, right?
It does. It notes that George Tenet's spokesperson categorically denied it, called them false rumors.
So if you're the author, you have to deal with that.
Well, yeah. What if the CIA's goal was just protecting its methods? Like that HADA home switchboard surveillance. Isn't just plain old bureaucratic arrogance a simpler explanation?
A simpler explanation that still results in an absolute catastrophe. Yes.
Right. And that's the point the author has to tackle head on. The piece risks just leaning on the most extreme interpretation without really ruling out these, less sensational alternatives.
And if the goal is to build a rock-solid case for a new investigation, the argument has to be able to withstand those direct denials from the official sources.
Precisely. So I think the suggestion here is that the material has to clearly separate the two things.
Proof of blocking versus proof of motive.
Yes. Show the proof of confirmed information blocking, which we agree is strong, and then acknowledge the leap to the recruitment motive. To build that robust case, you have to engage with and then systematically refute the denials, like Tenet's or the 9/11 Commission's own explanation.
The whole zone defense versus man-to-man metaphor they used?
Which was always a bit weak, but you still have to address it. So how do you do that? How do you anchor the plot claim?
I think a concrete way to do it is to lean into the official denials.
Okay.
You state, for example, that Tenet's spokesperson called it false rumors. Then, immediately after, you dedicate a whole analysis to why the circumstantial evidence, Rossini's testimony, the cover-up later, why all of that implies a betrayal of duty so deep.
That the recruitment plot becomes the only logical conclusion left.
Facts just cannot be explained by simple incompetence. It pivots the whole argument from needing some impossible new evidence to just needing stronger logic.
That's a much stronger position to argue from.
And alternatively, if the author really wants to push for new proof, they could suggest next steps, like, demanding any documents related to the CIA operative VVV.
Oh, that is a huge suggestion, because VVV isn't just an acronym, he's the actual operative who was allegedly trying to recruit them.
And who was reportedly shielded from the commission.
If documents proving VVV's actions exist, that changes the recruitment claim from an inference into a potential fact.
It changes everything.
Okay, so let's move on. The next logical step here is connecting the CIA's internal behavior to its alleged use of Saudi proxies on the outside.
Right, and here the material needs to strengthen that evidentiary bridge between John Brennan's role in Jeddah and what Saudi operative Omar al-Bayoumi was doing.
The circumstantial evidence is very compelling. It notes that almost all the hijackers got their visas from the Jeddah consulate, where Brennan was the station chief.
And it brings in court filings, which is critical. The filings suggest the visas were issued to, and I'm quoting here, facilitate an operation run by the Saudis and the CIA.
Which brings us directly to Omar al-Bayoumi. He meets the hijackers. He's got this ghost job at Avco, the aviation company.
And he's getting all this money funneled from the Saudi ambassador's wife.
So the framework is there. The CIA using the Saudis as a workaround because, they can't spy inside the U.S. It all makes sense.
It does make sense, but there's a gap in the causal chain. The author asserts that because Brennan was station chief when the visas were issued, the operation must have originated there with his knowledge.
But couldn't it just be a massive, massive security failure that just happened to happen on his watch, rather than an operation he actively greenlit? The material has to move past just implication.
It really does. So to build on that, the piece needs to focus its energy on showing how all those facts together, Brennan's job, the weirdly high number of visas, what Bayoumi did next, how that serves as definitive proof of an intentional workaround for this recruitment plan.
It's not just that it happened while he was there.
No.
You have to clarify how the visa process in Jeddah was essential to the recruitment strategy itself. So, okay, if the author's going to stick with the claim that this was intentional, they need to show the mechanism of that intent.
Precisely. For a concrete suggestion, when they reference that court filing, they should dig into the operational criteria. How did individuals who were known to be at the Kuala Lumpur summit, which the CIA was watching, later get multi-visit U.S. visas from Jeddah?
That shifts the focus from just Brennan was there to this specific, unusual process was used for a malicious purpose. It implies control.
It's much stronger. It focuses on the mechanics. And then you have to underscore that Bayoumi wasn't just some passive facilitator.
Absolutely. The material should highlight the discovery of his notebook,
The one with the drawing of an airplane and the flight calculations?
a detail that, conveniently, was kept from the 9/11 Commission investigators. That detail should be used to show that Bayoumi wasn't just, helping them find an apartment. He was actively involved in logistics.
It reinforces the whole narrative that the CIA's proxy was either deeply compromised or, maybe worse, was part of a runaway operation. It makes that connection far more sinister than just, financial aid.
Okay, which brings us to the third point. The material has these absolutely staggering details about how broken the FBI was in 2001.
Yeah.
But they're kind of buried near the end of the piece.
And that's a structural mistake. It really minimizes the overall impact. To give a truly complete picture of the systemic failure, the piece has to elevate those independent failures within the FBI. It shows that these problems were essential to the disaster, completely separate from whatever the CIA was doing.
I mean, let's just talk about the facts the material brings up. They couldn't search Zacharias Moussawi's laptop.
The Phoenix memo was missed because their internal email didn't work.
The entire bureau lacked searchable, digitized case files. And the fact that they had to use express mail to circulate photos of the hijackers? I'm sorry, express mail in 2001?
We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar federal agency using basically a courier service for critical terror threat intelligence. It's staggering. And these details, they paint a picture of just profound, independent incompetence.
So the weakness here is really about placement. By putting these facts near the end, it makes them feel like secondary factors, like an afterthought.
When they were arguably necessary preconditions for a plot of this size to ever succeed. I mean, think about it. If the FBI was that crippled technologically, the material says it took 12 commands simply to save a document.
12 commands!
It literally would not have mattered what the CIA told them in January 2000. That information would have just vanished into a broken system.
That is the crucial refinement. So the suggestion is to bring that entire discussion of the FBI's chaos right up to the front. Show how that incompetence would have neutered any attempt at coordination, even if the CIA had shared the info.
It reframes the whole thing as a devastating two-front collapse. You have deliberate secrecy from the CIA hitting a brick wall of operational decay at the FBI.
And that strengthens the call for a real investigation. Because now it's not just about one conspiracy, it's about the total failure of multiple agencies. The real horror is realizing the CIA's secrecy was basically exploiting a vacuum of capability at the FBI.
Exactly.
So what's a concrete way to integrate this earlier?
Well, when the author discusses the failure to find the hijackers, they mention the FBI informant Abdus Sattar.
Right. The guy whose home Al-Hazmi and Al-Mithar lived in for a while?
So use that detail to explore the FBI's lax oversight of its own domestic sources. It reinforces the idea that the FBI's failure to find those guys in San Diego was a profound internal failure of tradecraft, totally regardless of what the CIA did or didn't do in Kuala Lumpur.
And bring those technological failures forward. Use them as a weapon against the official story.
Absolutely.
Use the examples, no scanners, express mail, the nightmare of saving a file, to show why even in August 2001, when the CIA finally did tell the FBI, the Bureau's own limitations meant any response would be too slow. It wasn't just bad communication, it was a physical inability to move data. It creates a much more devastating picture.
This is really dense material. And the sourcing on the confirmed facts, like the information blocking and the FBI's tech problems, it's just undeniable.
It is. The author has put together a really compelling set of circumstances. The goal now is just to tighten up those analytical connections to make the final conclusion that the official report is a lie, completely unassailable.
So, to synthesize this, our critique found 3 key areas to strengthen the piece. First, find stronger evidence to push the recruitment motive from inference to conclusion, and really tackle the official denials head-on.
Right. Prove that bureaucratic failure just doesn't explain all the facts.
Second, bolster that evidentiary chain connecting Brennan in Jeddah to Bayoumi's operation. Detail the mechanisms, like the weird visa criteria, that show purposeful intent.
And third, elevate the FBI's own systemic failures. Move them to the front to show the full scope of the collapse. Frame it as a perfect storm of secrecy meeting incompetence.
So the most important next step for the author is to either challenge that recruitment plot assertion with more primary sources, like those VVV documents, or, probably more effectively, reframe the analysis to show how the confirmed facts make the recruitment theory the only one that ties it all together.
Exactly. Focus on securing those links around the visa process and, crucially, integrate the FBI's breakdown into the main argument right from the start.
This is really high-level, actionable feedback on a very complex project. We do look forward to seeing the refinements of this. If you work through these suggestions, please submit your work back to the critique for a follow-up.